Hey friends, I'm Seth, and I'm going to be talking tonight about my top 10 favorite horror film endings. I do have a list that goes beyond 10, and there's probably a lot more that I forgot about, but I'm going to primarily focus on 10 that I have highlighted, and uh, if I feel like staying on to talk a little bit longer about more, I'll probably do that. But yeah, so tonight's topic is going to be top 10 favorite horror film endings. My own personal opinion, of course. Um, it's all subjective. Before I begin, the plan going forward for next week is Ray should be back for us to continue on with our normal Wednesday night shows, the Horror Movie Massacre, and we'll be going back to covering the Evil Dead films. We did the first three. Our plan was to do the show Ash vs. Evil Dead, but then Ray had to take a little bit of a break. And so I will be continuing to do solo shows, and likely I'll have to move to another night. I might do Tuesdays because from now until like Labor Day, on top of my day job, I'm going to be I'll be working as needed at the local drive-in to help out. Um, and after that, I might just move to Fridays for solo shows. I think Ray's planning on doing some solo shows as well. We're trying to, we need to kind of put some more stuff out there for our YouTube. So and yeah, so that's the plan moving forward. If you're watching on YouTube tonight, uh, thumbs up or thumbs down, leave a comment, share. Um, and if you're watching on Facebook, you can hit the thumbs up, you can hit the heart emoji, you can hit the laugh emoji, the care emoji, the angry emoji, whatever you want to do, and also share and comment. I want to know what your favorite endings to horror films are. Like, what are your top favorite endings? They don't necessarily have to be like uh, twist endings or surprise endings. They can just be, I got at least one on here where it's just the whole third act in general. I really love. So, with that said, I'm gonna go through some comments. So I see Sean has commented already, and then after that, I'll get started on my list. So Sean Sheridan, the friend from across the pond who endured all the Hellraiser sequels for us, says favorite endings is Sixth Sense, Halloween 4, and H2O. Just top of my head. Yeah. Uh, Sixth Sense. The funny thing with that is like when that movie came out, the ending got spoiled for me before I got a chance to see it. It wasn't intentional. It was just the person assumed that I had already seen it when I hadn't, and but it's still a great ending. I do like that one a lot. I saw Bad Moon, not perfect but fun. Yes, absolutely. Love Bad Moon. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's definitely not perfect, but it's I think it's a really fun movie, really fun werewolf movie, and I love the design of the werewolf in that. Like, it looks fantastic. Sean also says Werewolf Syndicate, you get a couple thousand subs easy from a name change. Yeah, yeah. I will do it. I will change it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that looks like to be all the comments that I have for now. So I'm going to get started with the most obvious one, and I say it's the most obvious one because it's the image I used for the thumbnail for this, and that's Psycho 2. What I love about that ending, well, I mean, I love that whole movie, and I love the story, and I love the way that it kind of gets you to feel bad for Norman Bates, while also kind of understanding Lila Loomis's the reason why she's doing stuff. Now, throughout the movie, there are a couple like hints, like almost sort of like, hey, is Norman, going back to his old habits? And there's one particular scene too where Lila and her daughter are talking, and her daughter asks her why she did something. I can't remember exactly what it was, and she denied it. And Then you, and then everything happens, and Lila and her daughter get killed, and everything seems calm. Norman's in his kitchen, and then there's a knock on the door, and it's Mrs. Spool, and she shows up and she tells him the story about how she's uh, Norma's sister, but she's also his biological mother. And he's just sort of like casually walking around in the kitchen, and he just casually goes over to the shovel and grabs it and asks her, "Are you sure you don't want a sandwich?" And then just whacks her in the head with it. Um, I just love the way that that scene was sort of like choreographed. There was like a calmness to it. You weren't really expecting something big to happen, and like that situation was just sort of like sudden, where he just kind of grabbed the shovel and whacked her over the head with it. Um, so Psycho 2 is absolutely fantastic movie with a terrific ending, and I can't sing the praises enough about Psycho 2. Um, Ages of Film, what's up, man? Smash that like button. Still at work, so gonna be dropping in and out. Awesome. What's up? Hope all is well. And when you get out of work, you gotta put down a list of your favorite horror film endings. I think that'd be kind of cool. Um, Actually, I'm just gonna go back to that real quick. And also, maybe you should do like a similar thing on your channel. I haven't checked out your channel yet. I know I'm a bastard. I will get to it. Um, but I will. But you should definitely do something like this, because I'm curious, because I know that there's a shitload of movies out there and a lot of great endings, and like every list is going to be different, and there's going to be stuff like that's not on my list that you may include on yours. So yeah, definitely. Scott Walker, I would absolutely love to see a werewolf movie where all the werewolves from all the different movies came together in the multiverse. Do you think that movie would work or no? Um, is I mean, it's you know, rights issues would probably prevent some of it from happening, but you could definitely do like like the Wolfman and American Werewolf in London, because they're both Universal. Um, yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool if they did a werewolf multiverse. Maybe I would like to see the Wolfman from both remake and the original, Ginger Snaps, American Werewolf in London, and others werewolves versus vampire movies. Yeah, yeah, I agree. That'd be cool. I don't think it could, technically happen because of rights, but that'd be kind of fun. Have you tried? You could why don't you try writing that out? Do some sort of like fan fiction thing. I think that'd be kind of cool if you did that, man. Yeah. So, and I do want to stress too that this isn't really a ranking video. It's not like I'm putting one above the other. These are all great equal endings in my mind. I don't know if I could rank these from a favorite to least favorite. I love them all. So they're just a random order, 1 through 10, of my favorite ones. Um, the next one I have on my list is Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. Uh, what a great remake in general, and it's not entirely. It's I don't want to say it's unfaithful, but it's not a direct adaptation of Jack Finney's book, nor is it a copy of the original film. But I love the way it's done. I love the way it's shot. I love the feeling of paranoia and uncertainty throughout the entire film. And is Invasion of Body Snatchers is one of my favorite remakes of all time. Now, I love the ending too, because the ending was just so, like, the first time I watched it was so unexpected. Like, you think that Donald Sutherland's character, Matthew, uh, is the last survivor, and you think with the way that it's done, it makes it kind of seem like, after Elizabeth dies, he just he kind of like stops fighting, and he just kind of like blends in. But then he comes across Veronica Cartwright's character, and then all of a sudden, and it's just such a great ending, and it just blew my mind when I first watched it. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the best remakes of all time, and uh, definitely has like one of the most memorable endings of all time as well. And it's probably out of the four Invasion of the Body Snatcher movies, it's my favorite ending out of all of them. I know yeah, the original sort of had like this almost like closure thing with it, because they couldn't really go dark with it. The '90s film kind of ended with a sort of a voiceover, like almost suggesting that there may be hope. And then the Nicole Kidman film from the early 2000s has um, complete closure and a little bit of a happy ending. So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978 is has by far my favorite ending of that series. Oh, good man, that's a great idea. Yeah, definitely, man. In no particular order, the original Wicker Man. Oh my god, I forgot about that one. See, there's a bunch of like I knew I was forgetting stuff. Yeah, the ending to the Wicker Man is great. The Shining, yeah, that's a good one too, because I love everything about that movie, and I totally agree. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just a batshit crazy ending. Yes, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is definitely a fantastic ending, and uh, another one in that series that I really like is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, the prequel to the remake. I just love the way that it ends. But yeah, I agree with a lot of those there, and thanks for reminding me of the Wicker Man, because I actually forgot about that. Um, got to know, got diagnosed the other day. It's a very sad time for the family. My girlfriend helps me with the injection, and he's a real battle and fighter. Yeah. Oh man, that sucks. It's terrible, man. I hope everything gets better. Um, yeah, I couldn't imagine if something happened with my dog, uh, my good boy. Um, yeah, so that is my next one. Again, these are not in order of a ranking. These are just I'm just listing my 10 favorite. The next one I have written down is The Horror of Dracula from, what was it, 1957 or 1958. Um, I just love the whole final confrontation between Peter Cushing's Abraham Van Helsing and Christopher Lee's Dracula, and uh, I absolutely love the scene where Van Helsing he runs onto the table and jumps onto the curtains and pulls them down, and so the sunlight comes in and kills Dracula. I think that's just a fantastic ending to a fantastic horror film in general. The Horror of Dracula is uh, probably my second favorite Hammer horror film that I've seen. My first being The Curse of Frankenstein. But yeah, S. Michael says nobody gives a crap about my favorite. Wes Craven presents They, but it's a scary ass movie, real nightmare fuel. I have not seen that in a very long time, so I can't remember how that ends, or actually anything about that movie. Uh, yeah, there was a couple like of the Wes Craven presents films that I watched like way back in the day, like when they first came out on video, and I know I've seen that one, but I don't remember anything about it. Uh, uh, can you um, give me some details on how it ends? Because now I'm like curious. And you got any other favorites, S. Michael? Sean says to reverse the topic, top horror opening, Scream takes the cake, best horror opening ever. Oh, that should be another one I should do. I should do a top favorite horror openings. Yeah, that's a good idea. Um, Scream is definitely a good one. I like Scream. Um, so the next one on my list is Nightbreed. Now, this is what I'm talking about with this is just like the whole final, um, the whole third act of Nightbreed is is just so cool. I love the whole battle between the humans and the citizens of Midian, and I think it's just so chaotic. A lot happens. It's very violent. It's like it's a really long battle, and a lot happens in it, and then it leads to Midian being ultimately destroyed, and uh, the Nightbreed themselves are now sort of out in the open with no place to go, and they kind of look out to Boone, now Cabal, who is supposed to lead them to a new place. I just I love Nightbreed in general. I probably said I think I feel like I've said that about like every film so far that I've listed, but it's true. Um, I love the reversal of where the monsters are the good people and the humans are the bad people. Um, I love the designs of the different Nightbreed themselves, and I just love how how long the ending kind of battle goes on for, because I feel like um, in most cases it probably would be sort of like shortened down and condensed, but they give a lot. Um, there's a lot that happens in the final act of Nightbreed, so that makes my list because I love the film and I love the final battle. The next one on my list is Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Um, I mean, that's just like an iconic ending. The fact that uh, Ben survives this whole ordeal with everything that's gone on throughout the day, with the ghouls and trying to hole up in the house, and you know try to talk sense to Barbara, and you know uh, squaring off with that dickhead Cooper, and everyone else, by the end everyone else is dead and he's the last one. Of course, it is kind of cruel, the fact that he survived the night, basically in the basement, essentially proving Cooper right. But however, if they were to hold down there, the daughter would have come back as a ghoul anyway, and who knows what would have happened. But I just love the irony of this guy surviving this whole ordeal this entire night, and then he hears noise outside the next morning. He looks out the window. He's mistaken for a ghoul and gets shot and killed. And it's not lost on me the sort of the messaging that Romero was sort of suggesting subtly, I believe. But I just think that's a very iconic and kind of very bleak ending, and it's I mean it's a ballsy thing, because I mean it seems like a lot of films are um, like they almost like feel like they have the need to make everything a happy ending or leave some sort of hope, but this one just kind of goes for broke and it doesn't. Um, Sean Sheridan says, Friday Final Chapter, best thing in that franchise. Absolutely. That's my favorite in the franchise. It's got great ending too. On top of having, the best Jason with Ted White. Um, but yeah, uh, the final moments in the house are really cool. Again, like I just absolutely love that scene where Trish is in the house and she has her back to the door and Jason comes in behind her and she kind of becomes aware and she just like kind of like tries to catch him off guard and turn and swing the machete. I love that part. But Friday the 13th Part 4 is definitely my favorite in that franchise. Ages of film, the ending of The Wolfman 2010 would be in mine. You think the curse is over, then you see the police captain bit and you realize the wolf lives on. That's actually a really good ending. Yeah. And I also kind of like the moment, just I mean, even before then, where um, uh, Lawrence's werewolf is going after Gwen, and they're by that beautiful waterfall. They're in that area, and she's like trying to sort of uh, trying to reach him, trying to reach the human side, and there's a look of recognition, but then she has to pull the trigger, and just the I think the score is great in that moment. So I'm with you. The Wolfman 2010 is a film that I've been screaming at the sky saying is completely underrated for a long time now, and I'm happy to see anyone bring that up and make a list of anyone's. So yeah, my support on that one, pal. Um, the next one I have listed is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. Um, my God, what an ending! Uh, you know, I don't really care for what happens prior to it. So the whole thing where Michael is he kills all the people in the truck, and then um, the police come and they shoot him, and he falls down this well or whatever. Didn't really care for that as much, but what I love is the way that the film just concludes with everyone thinking it's all over, and uh, Jamie and Rachel have been through something terrible, along with the rest of Haddonfield, of course. And uh, Jamie's uh, foster mom goes to run her a bath, and then we get sort of like um, a similar moment to the opening of John Carpenter's Halloween, where we see from the perspective a mask come down, we see the eye holes, and it could be argued if you see this for the first time. I don't remember um, my first time watching it. I was a kid, but um, uh, I could imagine someone believing, hey, maybe Michael is in the house or whatever, and that's him that's attacking her. But then you see Loomis come up around the stairs, and there's Jamie standing holding the scissors, and I was like, I just love it, And then Loomis is screaming, "No, no, no!" And he pulls out his gun because he's gonna shoot her, and then of course Sheriff Meeker comes and stops him, and Loomis just keeps screaming, "No, no, no!" And then it just ends on that moment. And the music's really great at that point too in the film, but I would have to say Halloween 4's ending is my favorite ending of that entire franchise. I think it's just absolutely fantastic ending. And it's a good film too. I like it. It's like one of my favorite sequels. But not the favorite, but Sean Sheridan. And then can also hurt a movie. Looking at You, Mr. Blow Up Doll, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, that's true. So the ending of A Nightmare on Elm Street, like that whole thing at the tail end, it doesn't it doesn't hurt the movie for me. I think the movie's strong up to that point anyway. But yeah, I could. Yeah, it's that is a little cheesy for sure. The Howlin' as the beef patties look like good quality when being cooked. I'm hungry. Yeah, yeah, I do like that ending though. Uh, where it reveals that Marsha's still alive, and it just it's on the burger. The camera stays on the burger. Uh, and Thomas, go get yourself something to eat, man. You're gonna make me hungry. Fuck. Sean Sheridan. People say Halloween 5 destroys the end of 4. I disagree. Loomis snapped at the end of 4. That carries on in 5, and Jamie as a killer was never going to happen, minus being a mute. I like Five's direction. Man. So I I disagree with you. Um, I, I see what you're saying, right? Because one of my biggest complaints about Halloween 5 is Dr. Loomis being an asshole and the way he treats Jamie. And yeah, I can see your point. The end, what happens at the end of Halloween 4 breaks him, and he's just a kind of a different person. Um, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like them going in that direction. They made a lot of questionable choices that I didn't understand. Like, why write off Rachel? Why not have the sacrifice that Tina makes just before the third act of that film? Why not have that sacrifice be Rachel? I think that'd be way more powerful for the audience. Now, I do agree with you that Jamie being the killer in number 5, it probably wouldn't work. No, and I mean, I think if anything, and we saw with how people reacted to Halloween Ends, especially, but and with how people reacted to Halloween 3, is people want Michael Myers, and my idea would have been, and I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone who wrote any of the Halloween sequels, but my idea would have been you have uh, Jamie at Smith's Grove, and you have the whole film set in Smith's Grove, and while she's there, she's not speaking. Okay, that part would make sense where she's mute, where she's not speaking, because it'd be like similar to Michael's backstory. But then Michael shows up for her, and you got Loomis there as well. I just feel like there was potential to go a little bit further with that story. It almost kind of like they almost kind of dropped. They almost kind of dropped it. Like they acknowledged the fact that of what Jamie did. They bring it up, but then she's like the whole film she's mute for no reason. She's having psychic links with Michael, and she just no longer has like the violent impulses anymore. So I don't know. I mean, I'm glad you like it. I'm not shitting on you for that, but Sean says I used to say Loomis in 5, but given what the character had been through, it made sense to me. I like Tina, and I'm not in the hate camp. I like Rachel, but it's a movie character side. No, I get that, and like I have no problem with the idea of Rachel dying. I just felt like the they try to make us some sort of emotional connection between Jamie and Tina. Now Tina's a character that we hadn't seen before, and I just feel like if if Rachel had been through the entire movie up to that point, and it was Rachel making that sacrifice, I think it would have probably had a better impact uh, on fans alike, um, and the characters. Just my own personal opinion, but um, Tina is she is annoying for sure, but there are certain scenes with her that I like. Like I love the scene with her and Michael in the car where she thinks that he's her Michael, and they're driving, and she's like, I want a pack of smokes, and I just love that whole thing. That whole scene was really good. But um, Halloween 5 is still like one of my least favorites in that series. Not my bottom for sure. Is I mean, Resurrection is so much worse, but Ages of Film original Halloween end is top notch. Loomis looks over the ledge and Michael's gone. Absolutely, and it always makes me like kind of like think about the what if we never got like another Halloween film, and it's just that one film, and that's how that film ends. I think that's great because you know, traditionally speaking, like with a lot of John Carpenter films, he leaves most of his films sort of open ended, leaving up for the audience to sort of figure out and to question things. And I just love the idea where the film ends, where basically Loomis is proven right. He shoots Michael 6, sometimes arguably 7 times, depending on the film, off the balcony of the Doyle house, and which is something that sure, people have survived getting shot multiple times, but you know the idea that Loomis looks over and his body's gone, and then you have Loomis kind of like looking around, and then you have uh, the music start to kind of play as they do a montage with the heavy breathing, as we see the other locations. I think it's a fantastic ending. And I just saw a film the other day. Um, well, I'll have to talk about that some other time. Um, yeah. Sean Sheridan. I used to hate Loomis in 5. I still do. I don't like it. I don't like asshole Loomis. I like the Loomis that is um the Loomis from Part 4 is like peak Loomis for me. You know, when he's in the diner there with all the Abraham Lincoln pictures behind him, and he says, "Leave those people in peace. You want another victim? Take me." I love that. Sean Denson says Tina is god awful. Yeah, she's something else. She's like nails on chalkboard. Sean Sheridan says Halloween 5 I used to hate, but I really warmed to it the last 2 years. Opposed to Halloween 3, that has went off a cliff for my like of it. Not a fan now. Oh, that sucks. Sean Sheridan, Halloween one and done would have been better. I always like have that in my mind, like what would it be like that? And yeah. So leading into my next one that I have listed is Sean's favorite Halloween 3 season, The Witch. Um, I absolutely love the ending to season The Witch. I, Mostly because it just kind of leaves off on a very Carpenter like note where you don't really know what happens next. So he manages to contact someone who posts the ad, the Silver Shamrock ad on 2 of the channels, but on the third channel still playing, and he's screaming on the phone, and the music is getting more intense, and he's stop it, stop it, stop it. I don't know. There's something about that ending and just sort of like not knowing what came next that is very appealing to me. Um, some people prefer their endings to be a little bit more clear, but I love the sort of like the endings that kind of show restraint and don't give us every answer. So Yeah, Halloween 3 is a film that I've defended ever since I saw it. So like before it kind of became like, I'm not saying that I'm a trendsetter. I'm just saying in general, uh, it's getting a lot more love now than it used to. Back when I first watched it, I was told not to watch it because it's terrible, and I watched it and I had a blast with it. And I don't have a problem separating it in my mind. It's not a Michael Myers film, um, but I've been defending it for years, and you know I'm glad to see in the last couple of years more and more people have warmed up to it. Um, I still think it's underrated because there is still a lot of hate for it, especially with like Halloween franchise fans. But Scott Walker, if they did a remake of American Werewolf in London, uh, to it work for today's audience or not, I think a good work with today's audience because that's what our parents watched. Um, Yeah, I think it could work. Again, like I've said a couple weeks ago, because I think you brought up the idea of a remake of that before. Is I just don't want to see a remake of it. I just do a sequel, acknowledge the events, explore more of the slaughtered lamb. Um, but would it work with today's audiences? It's tough to say because I mean, werewolves in general aren't like big box office sellers anyway. Most werewolf stuff goes like direct to video. Um, there's the this need for people in the filmmaking industry to go with CGI instead of practical, which never made sense to me. Um, so it's tough to say. I guess it would depend on whoever they got to whoever they hired to write and direct um, the next American Werewolf film, or it depends on some of the choices they made with how they approach the visual effects, and then it also just depends on what kind of audience they're going to target for it. So the idea of another one is appealing, but it also kind of worries me because I am now an old man and I don't like change. Sean Denson says, I think Halloween 3 is amazing. They should have just called it Susan the Witch. Yes, I absolutely agree. I think it is amazing. And they should have just called it Susan the Witch, although calling it Halloween 3 Susan the Witch doesn't bother me. Maybe it's just because, uh, I know the intent behind it. I know that when John Carpenter wrote Halloween 2, that was it. That was the death of Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis, and he wanted to do uh, an anthology. And in the meantime, because of the success of Halloween, you had the Friday the 13th franchise, which also kind of inspired the Halloween franchise in a way too, with up in the gore and all that. But with with that franchise really taking off, there was, I guess, this expectation within the audience is that Michael needed to come back, and which wasn't intended. Like obviously, Halloween 2 was supposed to be it for Michael and Loomis, and but then the slasher craze happened. I mean, remember at the time of Halloween 2 and Halloween 3, the slasher craze was really in its infancy. Slashers existed in some form or another, but they weren't quite as popular or mainstream. And then Halloween began the mainstream, and Friday the 13th carried it on. And so I don't mind it. And another thing I always kind of wonder about the what ifs is like, what if they didn't cave in and bring back Michael Myers? What if they did continue the Halloween franchise as anthology films? Like, what would this franchise look like? So, um, yeah. But I do agree with you. Glad to see some love for it. Mainly for Tom Atkins, not a fan. In 3, he just a pervert old man. For me, to me, abandon his kids to be with a girl half his age, kind of scummy to me. Yeah, it's weird how how unlikable he is, while also kind of, to me, kind of being likable. The fact that he does like neglect his kids, he's just drinking all the time, and goes to hook up with someone who much younger than him. Uh, Weird choices for sure. It's kind of like it almost kind of feels out of place in The Fog as well, when his character hooks up with Jamie Lee Curtis's character in that as well. Um, Scott Walker says, I would love to see a remake of Scream. Do you think it would be a good idea or not? I think 50-50. It will be as good as the movie. Yeah, a remake of Scream? No, I don't think that would. I mean, it would probably do well, but one, the franchise is still going pretty strong with the sequels. Now, of course, it is getting to the point where it's getting ridiculous with Sydney coming back, and I'm glad that she's coming back for another one. But the idea of like, oh, another person's targeting her, which family member is it now? But if they did like a remake of it, it'd be kind of pointless too, because then you know who the killers are. So part of the fun thing with like the sequels is the fact that, yes, while it's like copy and paste formula of the original Scream, there are new characters, and some people can guess who the killers are depending on how well they do these movies. The last one they made, at least 2 people very suspicious pretty early on, but there's still that uncertainty of who's the killer, who's not. If they did a remake, it would be like, oh, well, there's Billy and Stu, they're the killers, obviously. And then there would be the constant comparisons between the actors, the performances, and what they do. And Scream is one of those. I think you don't really need to do a remake for. You don't need to bring back the legacy characters either. Like you can do. So I mean, they've established well enough in this world that uh, within this within the Scream films, there's the Stab films that are based on the events started by Billy and Stu that have become super popular and super influential to the point where uh, basically the killers of parts uh, 4 and 6, 4 and 5 were fans of them and were influenced by them. So you could do a film set anywhere, uh, and just about new characters and someone being influenced by the Stab films. I think that's probably the best way to go forward. Um, I think there's a lot you can do with that. Especially if you lean into that influence as they have already with how popular and influential the Stab films are. Sean Sheridan, when you don't like your main leads, it's hard to like a movie. Still love Colonel Cochran, and the end in that song, though good, it's annoying. Yeah, it is annoying. Yeah, I do hear you about the main leads thing, because there's a Hitchcock film that I'm like 50-50 on. It's like I really love it, but then I kind of didn't because I hated the main character. That's Frenzy. Um, Frenzy is a really great film, wonderful moments of suspense, awesome story, but the main character in that was it was just hard for me to kind of root for him. And like being a fan of Hitchcock films, like I'm used to like um, characters with charm to them, like the Jimmy Stewart type, um, and that film didn't have that. But like So I hear you. Ages of Film brings up a really great point. Ending of the thing is a banger, hands down, hands down. I mean, I could say that about a lot of Carpenter films. I love the ending of Prince of Darkness. I love the ending to In the Mouth of Madness. Um, I love the ending to They Live. Um, he's just so good at endings, so good. Uh, but yeah, I love the fact that you don't know is is one of them the thing or none of them the thing? What's going to happen? You know, like it's such a good ambiguous ending. Sean agrees, saying yes, the ending to the thing is great. Scott Walker says, I would like to see different colored ghost face robes like red, white, brown, dark blue, green. Yo, that'd be kind of interesting. That would. Sean Denson says, everyone expected Myers. I thought in anthology was the right way to go. Yeah, I agree. And I'm not going to complain too much because I do like the Halloween films. I like that whole franchise, and I like the character of Michael Myers. And I I am a fan of uh, what I call the Loomis saga. So it's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Even though 5 is one of my least favorite films in the franchise, and I have a soft spot for 6, even though it's a technically it's not a great movie. I love the character of Dr. Loomis and I love Donald Pleasance, and so I do enjoy that franchise as it is, but like I just wonder what it'd be like if it was the anthology, you know? Pretty much the same comment about the different colored robes. But he expands upon that thought by saying for Scream 7 for the cult scene. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Kind of like the Power Ranger ghost faces. I would love to see different colored ghost face like rainbow, pink, black, silver, metal. What do you think about all this? I think if done right, yeah. And if there's like a sort of like a reason for it, like what would be the reason? But it would be kind of cool to see maybe a slight change, but you know, to the physical appearance. But I'm not sure. How scary will it if on train full of ghost faces and you don't know who the killer is? How scary will that be? How terrifying will that train full of ghost faces? I liked that scene in part 6 where they're on the train. Part 6 I thought was a really good sequel. It kind of fumbled a bit in the third act, especially with the reveals and uh, characters surviving who shouldn't have survived. I remember when the franchise had balls with, especially with part 2. Um, but I did like that scene on the train. I thought that was very tense, and it was great seeing. They had that moment where it was almost. I wish they kind of leaned into it more, like a little bit of like the paranoia. I think that would have been made it so much better if they leaned into the paranoia of it. So I think you're onto something. I think it would be kind of cool to have more of this sense of paranoia in a Scream film. To be honest with you. Sean Sheridan says, speaking of Hitchcock, Psycho Ending. Yep, the original Psycho Ending is classic. Ages of Film says the ending of Sinister was wild. That one stayed with me. Yep. Sinister as a whole stayed with me. Like, and I'm not like typically into those type of films. But that film I thought had some really good creepy uh, atmosphere to it. So I surprisingly I enjoyed it. And like I'm not a fan of like that type of film. I am no fan of the Conjuring films whatsoever. and but sinister stuck with me. Sean says a Scream cult will be a good new idea for a Scream movie. That was to be the idea for 3, but still coming back. And then the Columbine shooting happened. It was scrapped. Yep. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. And that's why a lot of people want Stu back because the original idea for Scream 3. Sean Denson, would you like to see Nightmare on Elm Street do a Halloween 2018 and retcon everything except the original? Absolutely not. No, no way. So, like Halloween, I understand why they did it for the 2018 film, right? Because at that point, you already had H2O ignoring the events of 4, 5, and 6, and then you had the Rob Zombie films kind of doing their own thing, and so there was already a sort of like a broken timeline there. With the Freddy films, they never. I mean, New Nightmare stands on its own, but I mean, you can really say the other ones, maybe not Freddy's Dead so much, but everything happens within a continuity. And I'm a firm believer that just because one film is terrible, that doesn't mean the next film is going to also be terrible. I think you can do a story um, that connects to the original series of films without leaning too heavy on it. I don't want memberries, but you could do a story with Jacob, Allison's son, and maybe a new generation of Elm Street kids. I have an idea in my head. I don't want to give away my idea, um, but they can continue on with the main continuity. I don't see any benefit from ignoring. Um, uh, I mean, they do kind of ignore part 2, I guess, but like I don't see any benefit of ignoring 2, 3, especially 3, 4, even 5, which is not one of my favorites. Um, so I would rather them not do that. And like when I heard like there's like this thing that's been going around for probably a couple years now, where Heather Langenkamp wants to do that type of thing with her and Robert, and I just don't want that to happen. I like the way that Nancy went out in part 3, and I don't need to see Freddie coming back after her while she's old. It just I don't know, wouldn't really make a lot of sense to me. Trakopedia, how you doing? Says Friday 13th, 1980, the original Elm Street and John Carpenter's Halloween, along with Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, has some of the best endings. My favorites for me. Yeah, those are good ones. I'm not really high on the original Friday 13th film, but um, it does have an iconic ending. Um, Sean Sheridan says, I think Scream 6 is the worst Scream by a mile. The plot armor is ridiculous, and the worst Ghostface is by a mile. That was a huge. I mean, I like 6 clearly more than you do, but you're absolutely right. The plot armor was ridiculous, and the ghost faces were obvious, and they were just so terrible. Like they were, I don't know. It was either their dialogue or the way that they were acting in the end. It kind of threw off the entire film, because I think up to that point we had a fairly well put together film. There was some intense moments. I love the scene where they have to cross the ladder. Um, I like the train scene. There's just so many good things that happen in that movie, and I felt like found they found some new stuff to do in a Scream movie with the new setting, and then it's kind of like they fumble in the third act, and I think that's what kind of ruins it for most people. Um, some of those characters should not live, no, much less be walking around after being stabbed. Sleepaway Camp, not a fan of the movie, but boy, that ended is something. Yeah, it is. Wikipedia says, had someone tell me Smallville isn't as important as West Wing because West Wing won Emmys. I'm like, Smallville is in Guinness Book, so it's just as important. I told them. Yeah, yeah, get out of here with the West Wing bullshit. I'm sure West Wing is a fine show. It just didn't seem like it was for me, and I love Smallville, and I think Smallville is very important. Um, it was like 2001. You know, it it was very important. I'll just say that. Absolutely love Smallville. Ages of film. I also love the ending of Mad Men personally, leaving you with the thought that maybe he's still out there. Yeah, I like endings like that. Um, I was going to mention it earlier, and I decided not to. But now that you brought that up, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But I love. All I'll say is I love the way that Summer of '84 ends because I feel like most filmmakers would not show the restraint to not tack on an additional scene to give closure. And I love the fact that that film does not have closure in it. And there's almost like a torture left on the main character with the way that film ends and a promise that is made to him. I really want to talk about that film, but I don't want to ruin the ending. I don't remember what year that came out. It was 2018, right? Sean Sheridan says, I'm not a massive Scream fan, minus the first one. So bringing Stu back, I'm not opposed to. Yeah. I am a huge fan of Scream 2. And I know a lot of people don't like that for some reason. But Scream 2 is my favorite of that series. I would say Scream 1 is the best by far, but Scream 2 is the one I go to the most. Um, and as far as bringing Stu back, I've seen movies where I've seen a movie where a guy who killed the killer as a kid uh, stabs the killer's corpse with a pole that gets struck by lightning, and then it brings that killer back. And it's a really fun film in that franchise. It's called, what's it called? Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I'm not opposed to, you know, taking a leap of faith for certain things. I know Scream is supposed to be more in the real world, but they're, they've been kind of, I don't know. Wikipedia says erasing everything but the first Elm Street would be a slap in the face to the people who like the movies like Dream Warriors. Yeah, or Dream Master too. I like Dream Master is my favorite sequel in that franchise. It's actually one of my favorite horror films because it's just so much fun and uh, I just there's no benefit from erasing, especially Dream Warriors. Dream Warriors I think is an important film in that franchise. Sean Sheridan, Heather, why do you want to do a Legacy sequel? Money, money, money. Yeah, I think that was like right after like Halloween 2018 kind of became a success. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing her come back in another film, um, maybe as someone in the dream world. A projection of a older Nancy of some sort. Sean Denson says, I think Robert is too old to play Freddy anymore. The makeup process alone will be too brutal for him. Yeah, no, I definitely think so too. I wouldn't hold my breath for Robert coming back. It's not going to happen. Uh, the character will get recast, and I think they should. I think as much as I love Robert in that role, I feel like that character can and should go on. Um, Wikipedia, I'm doing okay. Just dealt with haters today, but I'm here with awesome people, so not so bad. Yeah, well, fuck the haters, man. Fuck them. You're with the awesome people now. You're one of us. Summer of '84. Thank you. Completely forgot that. Love that movie. Yes, me too. I just watched it for the first time. My friend Josh came over last weekend and uh, showed it to me and my little brother. And for a movie where very little happens in it, it kept me captivated and it kept me guessing too because it felt like certain things, like the certain suspect was like, I was like, that's way too obvious. There's got to be some sort of thing. So I was expecting other things and just, and not to mention the main kid and then the main suspect, the cop. Uh, the actors did really well. It felt very Hitchcock, not just because of the rear window aspect of it, but because of just the interactions with the two characters. So Sean says, "Love Heather, but name me anything she has done outside Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, she wants to do it." Yeah. Sean asks, favorite Argento film, favorite Fulci film. Um, I haven't seen too many of those Italian horror films. For Argento, I'd probably go with Profondo Rosso, Deep Red. Fulci, God, I think I've only seen one or two of his. What is it? Uh, the Beyond. Yeah, he did the Beyond, right? I could be wrong on that one. Um, but I like that film. Um, uh, Ray, who's normally part of the Wednesday night show, and he's the ringleader here. He's the owner of the horror syndicate. Huge horror fan. He could probably list all of his favorites from all of them. Um, I've been slowly getting into them, been slowly watching them here and there. I do need to see more though, but I just kind of put them off for like more werewolf films. Chuckopedia says, "Thank you, man." And if people want to see Robert Returns Freddy, I say they should pick up some of the unmade scripts and either do like that, what Big Finish does with the Doctor Who, or do some animations. Yeah, that's possible. I would say, I mean, really, what they could do is bring him on as an executive producer, have his role be work with the new actor to kind of generate the mannerisms, right? So, the new actor, you don't want the new actor to completely mimic Robert, but to kind of like work with him to get some of the mannerisms down, and or I mean, yeah, get the mannerisms down, maybe kind of do his own thing here and there, and then maybe do some makeup effects on Robert for some close up insert shots or whatever, and maybe have Robert do ADR work to voice the character, something like that. They could have him involved to some capacity, but then at that point, what's the point? Why not just bring in someone else? I don't know, but um, I mean, Robert is legendary. Sean says Deep Red and the Beyond are my favorites as well. Yeah, but I do again. I want to clarify that I do say that with knowing that I have very limited of what I've seen. Uh, I've seen quite a few Italian horror films, but like I'm not like really up to date on whose film is who. There was one that I really liked. What was it? Your Vice is a Key, and I can't remember. This is a long title, but it was really cool. Um, I love the Demons movies though, especially Demons One. I think Demons One is like my favorite Italian horror film. Uh, but next week Ray will be back, or he should be back. So pop the question to him. So I got three others. Thank everyone for commenting. By the way, this is great. I love the interaction. Um, I got three others on my list. I've listed a bunch beforehand. If if you're new or if you're just watching now, I mentioned the ending of Psycho 2, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, The Horror of Dracula, Nightbreed, Night of the Living Dead 1968, Halloween 4, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. My next one is Rec 3 Genesis from I think 2012. Rec 3 is, I think, super underrated. I get why some people don't like it as much as the first two, because it's a complete change in style, not only with dropping the found footage style of it after the opening 10 minutes, but then it kind of shifts into more of a horror comedy. And I think it's a super fun movie, and it ends on a very brutal note for the two main characters. Um, it is, and it's 12 years old now, I think. Um, but I'm still cautious about spoilers because um, I want people to watch that movie. I think Rec 3 is a lot of fun, and the ending is just it's brutal. Um, Next up on my list is George A. Romero's Martin. What a freaking movie! What a freaking movie! I love Martin a lot, and I just love the idea that throughout the entire film, his cousin, um, who a lot of people believe to be his uncle, but they say in the film it's his cousin, also shares like this mental delusion within the family, and he threatens Martin. If I find out that you have done anything, I'll kill you. And then the film ends with Martin waking up and his cousin standing over him with a stake and a hammer and just pounding that stake into his chest. And because we know that Martin's not really a vampire, it's just a very like impactful ending. Like I love the way that film ends. So that's the next one. And the last one I would mention on this particular list, there's definitely more that I can talk about. So maybe I'll do a follow up to this at some point in the future. Cabin Fever. I love the way Cabin Fever ends. Uh, so basically, the lead character fell into the reservoir, so he's fucked. Um, and then he gets, he gets in that little accident with the deer, and he's drenched in blood. And then he meets up with Sheriff Winston, and who promises to get him some help. And then there's the asshole character. My favorite part is him coming out of the cabin, and he's like, "I made it! I fucking made it!" Because he only drank alcohol the entire time. He never had water, and then he gets shot to hell by the police. I think that's really fun ending. And then there is the the telltale end of it, which kind of pays off a joke that you didn't know was a joke earlier in the film. You thought it was something serious, and this is just something that can not be done in today's film. But yeah, I love the ending of Cabin Fever. So those are my 10. I will talk about more some other time. I'm just gonna read through some comments here, and then I'm going to leave so I can get back to watching um, The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. Um, Trekopedia says, I hope we get a new Jason film, and I love if Kate Hunter could return somehow, even if it's not as Jason. Yeah, I really hope to see a new Friday the 13th film at some point. Sean says, Martin is amazing. Romero was master. 100%. I mean, and I got 2 Romero films on here, but then there's like other ones that aren't on this list. The Crazies. I love the ending to The Crazies. I know this isn't horror, but the ending to Night Riders is holy shit. Um, and there's just so much more. I love Romero's films. Sean Sheridan says, I was not a fan of Martin, only seen it once. My memory is fuzzy. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a slow burn film. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. Um, but I love the sort of like lycanthropy type aspect of it, where this character believes something, and he's just like a lonely, shy young man, and if only he had better influences in his life, um, you know, things would have been different. But um, yeah, I love Martin, but um, I can see where some people don't. Sean Sheridan says, hate Cabin Fever. The Eli Roth frat boy writing is nauseating to me. Rob Zombie is a better writer. Wow. Yeah, the dialogue isn't great in Cabin Fever, but I don't know. For me, it's like kind of like, unlike Rob Zombie, it's like almost kind of like part of the charm. But I could see where it grates on your nerve. Trichopedia, do you think we'll ever see a proper 4K for the original Dawn of the Dead? It seems like it's a money issue, and that the person who owns the rights is kind of being stubborn. It's 100% because that person's being stubborn, and it makes no sense. He'd make a lot of fucking money. He'd make a lot of money off that. So I don't understand why he's not doing it. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Alrighty, so I'll just go through my list one more time, catch up on any remaining comments, and then I'm gonna leave. Um, so my favorite endings, not in any particular order, by the way. This is not a ranking, and I know I left a lot off, but Psycho 2, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, Horror Dracula, Nightbreed, Night of the Living Dead from 1968, Halloween 4, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Rec 3, Genesis, George A. Romero's Martin, and Cabin Fever. There's more I can do. And again, this is just my own personal subjective ranking. I'm pretty sure there's a lot I left off. Someone reminded me earlier about The Wicker Man. I totally forgot about the ending to that. I like that ending as well. But so there it is. There are my personal top 10 favorite horror film endings. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Share, write in the comments. What are your top 10 favorites? I mean, you could even do more if you want. List as many as you want. List all your favorite endings to horror films. If you're watching on Facebook, you could do thumbs up, heart emoji, laugh emoji, care emoji, sad emoji, angry face emoji. And same deal. Share, leave a comment about your favorite endings. If you're, watching this after after the fact of being live here, um, I go through and I read comments after anyway. So comment anytime. But I am going to wrap this up after a couple of things here. Sean Denson says Rob Zombie couldn't write a good film if his life depended on it. I know. I wish he hired I think he's a competent filmmaker. I really do. It's just like his writing is terrible, and I just wish that he would work with a writing partner who can kind of like take his ideas and kind of flesh them out, and maybe not have everyone written like they're part of the Firefly family. That'd be great. Trichopedia, if Romero was still alive, I'd hope we would have gotten the original Dawn of the Dead on 4K, but that producer is being so insensitive and pig-headed. Yeah, I agree. Trichopedia says, "Good list, man," and thank you for the stream as always. Well, thank you, and thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated. And yeah, so I'm going to leave now. Next Wednesday, Ray should be back, and we should be continuing on with our horror movie massacre show, where we are gonna, I assume, resume our discussion on the Evil Dead series. We covered the Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and Army of Darkness. Our plan was to do Ash vs. Evil Dead season 1 through 3, just one episode, just talking about all 3 seasons in general. That should be the topic for next Wednesday. I will be doing more frequent of these solo shows with just me. Um, uh, if Ray does come back next week on Wednesday for Horror Movie Massacre, I'll have to move the solo show to probably Tuesday, and then just until my time with my second job comes to an end in September, and then I'll probably just do Friday nights. But yeah, we'll see. So I don't know what the topic is going to be next week for this solo show. I might go back to werewolves, kind of go back and forth. But anyway, thank you everyone who commented tonight, who participated in the conversation. Sean Sheridan, Ages of Film, Trekopedia, Scott Denson, what's his name? Scott Walker, I believe it is. I just want to make sure I get it right. Yes, Scott Walker. Yep. And anyone else who I may be forgetting, thank you everyone who watched. This has been fun. I enjoy kind of doing these, and don't forget to leave your list. And love lives today, but evil dies tonight. And that's a fact.